in a second. There we go. Okay, so today I'd like to welcome our guest, Tim Sainsbury, who's in Bangkok. He's at the Conrad Hotel, he's general manager there. And Tim and I go back a few years. We both worked with Shangri La for a number of years. I was with them for 18 years, and I think Tim was as well. And Tim's career has now taken him to Bangkok, and he's been in Bangkok now for 4 years. And we are going to open the conversation by asking Tim to introduce himself and talk a little bit about some of the hotels he's managed in different diverse markets. So Tim, over to you.
Well, first of all, Richard, a big thank you for the invitation to join your podcast. As I mentioned before, it's my first time uh, actively participating in a podcast, although I do listen to a lot of them. So when you presented the opportunity, it was something of very much interest to myself. And as you said, we've gone back quite a few years. You may not recall, but we were in the same meeting room in 2005 discussing some renovations for a project at the time in Hong Kong. So, as you've mentioned, I started my career with Shangri-La. I worked with them for about 17, 18 years. And my travels have brought me all over the place from Southeast Asia to the Middle East to Europe, into China, into the Indian Oceans as well. So a very fortunate selection of placements, I can say. And now my most current assignment, here I am at Conrad Bangkok in amazing Thailand, which has been home for the last four, and I'm entering into my fifth year, and it's still just as amazing as when we first arrived. It's one of those cities that really you can deeply connect with, and it just has so much at your fingertips and offers so much. So the family and I are super happy to be here.
That's brilliant. I was actually interested to see the other day on LinkedIn. I think it was that somebody had posted a list of the top 50 hotels in the world, and I noticed that of the 50, I think there were 20 in that list of the top 50 in the world that were from Asia. And I think I would be interested to know what makes you think that Asian hospitality, particularly in Thailand, is so distinctive. I mean, that kind of raised the question to me that if so many of these hotels are in Asia, what is it about Asian hotels that makes them so distinctive? And you can talk about um, Conrad's position in the Hilton portfolio, but I'm curious to know what your take is on that.
Yes, so the top 50 list that was just announced several weeks ago, I think it's been a real hot topic of conversation as you've correctly mentioned, so many of them are here in this part of the world, Asia. And you get to speak to many people across your travels and across your career. And I think one of those things that often gets spoken about is hospitality in Asia is just different to elsewhere in the world. And that's not to say it's not great in other areas, it's just different. And particularly here in Thailand, because a lot of it really stems from that deep rooted culture, the genuine care and service that they really put into all of the interactions. And here in Thailand, I think hospitality is very often not just a profession, it's almost like a way of life. It's known as the land of smiles. So wherever you go, you feel that authentic warmth that goes beyond some of those maybe more scripted interactions that you can get elsewhere. So I think that's something that really resonates with a lot of people and perhaps is not easy to replicate because it's so ingrained within the culture.
Mm. So it's not really so much of a physical element in terms of. I mean, I know that there are some newer properties in Asia. I mean, there's a lot of new developments going on. But having said that, there's also a lot of new hotels open in London too, and elsewhere. So I think you're right. It's not a physical thing so much. It's very much that sort of Asian hospitality, because I think also the airline industry seems to follow a similar trend. A lot of the top airlines are also Asian, manned by Asian people. So, do you think that there's something that, from your career perspective now, also talking about how you worked in Middle East and other parts of the world, um, is that something that draws you to Asia? That it's easier. I used to find it was much easier to work in Bangkok when I worked there for 6 years with Shangri La and Dusit, um, because a lot of the stuff that HR and the training and the interactions that one has to worry about with other countries is just sort of much more fluid. It's more natural, and often we would never really had to worry that much about staff guest interactions. Do you find that? I mean, what's your comparison?
I think you're absolutely right. It does come a lot easier here in Thailand. It's in their nature, as to say. But that's not to say uh, it's not visible or it's not something that's offered in other Southeast Asian countries. I think this part of the world, Asia, specifically Southeast Asia, it does come a little bit more easily when I
Mm,
compare it to some of the other experiences I have, like you'd mentioned, the Middle East or in Europe or
yeah,
in the US. And I think it's just a deep rooted passion for
right.
serving people. And in this part of the world, hospitality is crucial for livelihood. It is their life, and it's given them this great opportunity to welcome people, and that's why people always want to come back to Thailand and all of these wonderful cities in this part of the world.
Yeah,
So yes, it has made it a little bit easier. Of course, it still requires a lot of ongoing training. The attitude obviously is there, but you need to equip them with the resources and the skills to be able to perform at the luxury levels that you strive for.
right. And talking about luxury, and looking out over the next 5 years, I mean, there are a lot of changes going on now in terms of technology and AI and such like. And if we move on to talking a little bit about some of the bolder strategies, if you had to define a particular bold strategy that luxury hotels need to adopt, say in the next, say, 5 years, what would it be, Tim?
Well, it's one of these ever evolving industries, hospitality, and I just think back 20 years ago when I first started. It's so different to what it is today, and there's so much noise in the market. There's so many offerings, and I think the strategy, not just with us, but with many luxury hotels or even hotels in different areas of the market, is to redefine what it is that the customer really is. And in the luxury segment, it would be redefining what luxury means for that modern traveler, because you mentioned just a few moments ago, there's so many new hotels, there's so many modern hotels. Yes, I think this is important for a lot of the segment. Maybe a little bit less so in the opulent sense, whereas previously that was really key to people making decisions to stay in specific hotels. But what is it that the modern traveler wants? You can read a lot about the different trend reports, and it's really down to what experiences you can offer or how you can make something more personable or purposeful. Because at the end of the day, you travel to a destination because you want to connect emotionally with that particular destination. And going back to what we spoke about, Thailand in general is just one of those people gravitate towards because it does have that metropolis, great city vibe, but it also has that heritage and culture as well. So I think people need to look at the beyond the traditional ways, service models that have been in place for many many years, and of course, the big key buzzword is innovation. How does that get integrated into the daily operation to better serve our guests? And it's something that's probably easier said than done in many ways.
Yeah. So in that regard, I mean, you've been there 4 years now. Are you noticing any market shift in terms of the type of traveler, the demographic? Are you getting younger travelers? I mean, there's a lot of hotels now in Bangkok, almost every street corner. You've got so many more hotels from when I was there. So are the travelers younger? Are you getting more digital first type bookings? Also, do you find that the newer traveler, the modern day traveler, has expectations around sustainability? I mean, are they looking for hotels that offer, a lower carbon footprint, for instance? I mean, how do you plan for that kind of change? Because, as you say, it is evolving. How do you plan for that?
Well, I think it's similar to most things in life. As things change, you just need to be adaptable. There needs to be a strong sense of agility and understanding on what it is that you're looking to achieve. But going back, I'll break that question into a few different sections. So let's just
Mm,
talk about the demographic changes and what we're seeing in the traveler. Conrad Bangkok has been in the market here for 20 plus years. It's an award winning service, has been recognized for the last 2 decades. So naturally, for a hotel that's been in the market for quite some time, we do have quite a diverse demographic. But to the point that we were talking about, yes, you can see that there is a growing younger traveler segment just because of the way disposable income has changed over the years and people's interest to travel and explore. So that is really a very much growing market for us. And when you think about, let's say, some of the young travelers, and you touched upon it about digital, I think back 20 years ago what the booking process was to what it is now, and it's light and day. So if you were to ask me digital, I think it's not really optional now. It is essential. It is the way people behave when they want to book. So at Conrad Bangkok, but Hilton as an enterprise, there's so much investment that goes into all of this seamless capabilities to connect with the guests, such as your mobile friendly platforms, or really trying to take as much data as you can, use the analytics to try and personalize the journey, because it's about providing a certain level of convenience and confidence to a guest that is going to build that loyalty in the long run.
I mean, in that regard, are you looking at different types of CRM software and RM software? Revenue management has evolved, and I think now, revenue management has evolved so much, and with AI, that's even changing. I mean, even when I was in Budapest last week, there's you can look at an Uber app and look for a price for a taxi, and within 3 to 5 minutes that price has changed. It's very dynamic, and I just wondered, with your booking system, with your CRM, I mean, I can see a time where you're all going to be almost be able to sort of merge the profile of the customer with the price that they're likely to pay, which at the moment is more subject to supply and demand. But you might have sort of younger travelers or first time travelers or regular travelers, and the revenue management system might be able to pick that up. I'm talking maybe a year or two down the line. But is Hilton, and Conrad in particular, are you looking at these types of changes in software to adopt to be able to facilitate that?
Yeah, I think as with all technology, there's a time and a place for it. And to make sure operationally and on an enterprise level that you're ready to adopt this. And at the
Yeah.
end of the day, the reason why you have all of this technology being brought to the forefront is to improve the guest experience and build that loyalty. Because you can look back, let's say 10, 15 years ago, when You had the start of all these chat boxes, and it caused a lot of frustration because of the lack of personal interaction. And in the luxury
Yeah.
segment, that's really, really important. So AI, digital transformation, it's here to stay. I think it's going to be gradually introduced into many different facets of the operation, just because it allows the enhancement of personalization as well as efficiency. But having remnants and making sure that that human touch is still there to define what luxury hospitality is, that has to stay. So it's always going to be a balancing act. And to your point about revenue management, AI is absolutely fantastic because it is able to analyze data at such a quick level that helps in prompting proposals, ideas, suggestions. That at the moment, it's still at a time where, of course, there's dynamic pricing, and we try to do our best at letting the system do what it needs to do, but it does need that personal oversight to make sure that it mirrors what is your overall strategy for the particular
Mm.
property or the brand or the enterprise as
Yeah.
such. But I can only see that becoming more and more evolved to improve accuracy, making sure the right price is at the right place at the right time. And this is something that is really at the forefront when it comes to revenue management. When it comes to database, CRM, when you look at the analytics, I think what it's most important is being able to understand a booking behavior or what a certain guest wants and being able to direct them to, let's say, we're in the hospitality industry. So trying to understand what it is that consumer wants and link it to the property, to the destination, so that it's visible. Because now we are
Yeah.
in this digital world where everything needs to be so well targeted so that it makes the decision process so much easier because you obviously have a tendency to have interest in what comes up right in front of you.
Yeah. So that's a very good point. And I just wondered whether, if you were sitting in a room, let's say you saw something interesting and you say, okay, here's a digital or AI kind of opportunity for me. Do you think that owners are a bit reticent about taking on some of these things? I mean, there's a cost element, obviously, but if you could show, I suppose, that it was going to make a incremental change to either make more money or save more money or one thing or another, I guess they'd probably be more interested. But is there anything that you're looking at that you've seen, any tools or technological tools or things that you think would be very useful improving your team productivity or your employee well-being? Is there anything out there that you've become aware of that you're looking at?
Yes, absolutely. Like you said, I think a lot of owners maybe have different perceptions on technology and AI. And its evolution. And as it plays out, I think we all need to be a little bit more accepting on this is the direction of travel, not just for hospitality, but for things
Mm,
in general. And with an open mindset, technology can be a very powerful enabler. You talk about, yes, there's costs associated with researching, implementing, but at the same time, it does allow the opportunity in some cases to actually improve
yeah,
productivity and well-being. And I look at some of the great things that Hilton do. I mean, we missed a small step on sustainability in one of the earlier uh, questions, but this is something that's a long commitment for Hilton. And we have an award-winning platform which is called Lightstay, where they integrate a lot of these environmental mindfulness aspects into the operation that allow you to foster, a workplace that's rooted in purpose and well-being. So let's just say, as an example, uh, we have an event. You can have a meeting impact calculator that tells you exactly what is the carbon footprint, And then there's even options at the end of the event. How can that be offset by um, putting things towards a beneficiary to have that as something a give back to the local communities. So that's something that is really prevalent in our meeting planner discussions, having those impact calculators and letting our event planners understand how they can contribute to greater society and the community.
Can you tell us? That sounds really interesting. Can you tell us a little bit more about how that works? Is it like a checklist, a score sheet that tells you? I mean, do you plug in the menu and what the staff are wearing and I mean, how maybe you could explain a little bit more. That's very interesting.
Yes, so it is a calculator that we use across all of the properties. So it's a global initiative, and it's very similar to what you've mentioned. So we would look at what type of meeting it is, how many people are attending, how many hours is it, what are the menus that you're serving, what is the setup, and then it will tell you what is the actual carbon footprint of that event, and also what are the impacts that the hotel is making to offset those carbon footprints, whereby we can obviously offset that with some of our beneficiaries that we partner with.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
I think with a lot of companies, and it's not just companies, it's individual travelers, they are a lot more wary of their behaviors and what they do and how that can impact the environment. So this is something that we push out to every single person at every opportunity, because we do have our travel with purpose goals for 2030 to see the reductions in water usage, the number of watts, the carbon footprints, and it's something we report on a weekly, on a monthly basis, and we look at those because it is important, because hospitality is obviously serving guests, but we are part of society, and what impact can we make towards that is something that's very important.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it's often hard to translate into day-to-day operations because hotels do tend to be quite largely kind of wasteful in many regards. I mean, if you look at a room, all the things that are thrown away at the end of a guest stay. I mean, other than the event side of it, what does maybe you can give us some examples of some practical sustainability at your hotel that may be to do with waste management or energy or community engagement. Perhaps you could. I mean, you've been there a while now. I mean, have you had any specific teams that you've put together to work on projects? Perhaps you could tell us about some of the low hanging fruit successes you've had, Tim.
Yes, so over the past few years, as I said, it's a really important topic, and it doesn't just come from myself or those above. It really has to be something that people are passionate about. So we have our committee, and we look at things from how we set things in the rooms to the different initiatives or systems that are on the market. So let me answer that in a few different ways. Let's just talk about the guest room. So in our rooms that were remodeled relatively recently, let's say in 2018-19, they're all fitted with motion detectors that allow for building control, temperature settings as and when people are in or outside of the room. So electricity, aircon, that's always going to be one of the biggest, uh, not just costs, but utilities that is used across the hotel. But the basic stuff, making sure there's no plastics, making sure the items that you procure are done in a way that is hopefully local and in a sustainable way. Then you talk about wastefulness, and it's a really interesting topic because back many years ago you'd say hotels are made of great chefs and great executive housekeepers, and we're lucky we have a fantastic chef, and we implemented a system called Winnow, which is AI capable and has evolved also because I've used this in previous lives where
Right.
we look at food waste and we have separate bins, separate scales where we put the waste in, it will track it. And AI, based on what it sees, it will tell you, okay, this is X weight of this item, so this is X weight of this dish or this ingredient. So it can really power you to understand where this wastefulness is so that you can then re engineer menus or look at how the quantities you prepare are. And I would have liked to have thought we did an excellent job in controlling this. But the reality is, and the numbers don't lie, is there's a 51% reduction in the amount of food waste if I compare 2025 to 2024.
Wow,
And this is
that's
one of the great uh, success stories when you think about how technology AI can help
mm,
productivity. Yes, it is a cost, but you get that back x-fold
yeah,
because it makes you more productive. So that's a fabulous story. And
it's great.
yeah, when you think
We,
about some of the other great initiatives, I spoke about our chef who was really incredible, Chef Ryan. We always want to push the boundary when it comes to sustainability and how you can make things more interesting for the guests. I'm not sure whether you heard or you've seen it anywhere, but in Bangkok, Conrad is the only hotel, actually, it's the only building that has an elevated apiary, which is a live bee farm on the rooftop, 100 meters
okay.
up in the air, where we have 150,000 bees that
Wow.
produce up to about 30 kilograms of honey that we then use in our operation, whether it's in the buffet at breakfast or some of the ingredients in a salad or uh, dessert or even in some of the beverages. So we really try to push the boundaries when it comes
Wow.
to sustainability.
That's tremendous. I mean, one of the opportunities I had when I was working at Hotel Icon in Hong Kong, because it was owned by a university, we also did quite a lot of teaching and research there. And some of the students that would come and do internships with us, we looked at closely at this whole sustainability thing. We also noticed that at one time, we did get a lot of buffet waste because we had a very big buffet restaurant there that was extremely popular. But obviously, there's some things you can't keep. We had this thing called an Orca, which was a food digestible machine. So instead of having to, have trucks come and remove waste or leftovers, we would have this, it would sort of digest it and turn it into water. But one of the other interesting things we did was we looked into uniforms and textiles. And, when we think we have 300 staff, they all have two, three pieces of uniform. Often those uniforms are made from cotton or silk or whatever it happens to be. They're very wasteful. You get staff turnover, and so therefore there was a lot of waste, like there is in the fashion industry. Huge amounts of landfills filled with fashion garments that they can't sell. So we came across this company called Cresswell Attire, who were producing um, recycled bottles, plastic bottles turned into fabric, and bamboo from maize, from hemp. And these fabrics felt exactly like, cotton and wool. I mean, they're very, very breathable. And we actually experimented with our big market restaurant and with the housekeeping. And they now have an AI capability where they can put in your Conrad brand or my Hotel Icon brand, or any other brand, and the AI element will design the uniform based on your brand DNA, and then these fabrics are used to create sustainable uniforms. And I think the great thing is that they will actually take back these uniforms at the end of their life and then downcycle them and use them for other things for you, like tote bags or underlay or whatever it happens to be. So I think that was that was something we implemented, and we were very very happy because we noticed it was incredibly durable. So that's, I mean, that's something I just wondered whether you were doing anything around the area of uniforms or textiles or fabrics, linen, sheets, that type of thing.
It is certainly under a lot of discussion at the moment as we look to achieve a lot of the goals that we've set out as an enterprise. So at the moment, they are in the midst of looking at the whole luxury styling piece, which incorporates uniforms as well. So there's certainly more to come in that sense because there's so many opportunities out there, as
Yeah,
you have mentioned. And when you talk to a lot of people, yeah, you do hear a lot about the high street brands, the retailers, and
yeah,
the wastefulness and how certain clothing garments are produced, and it makes you really think. I was just having a conversation with someone a few weeks about that. I'm not going to mention the brand, but it certainly put me off thinking about choosing them. And
yeah,
when you talk about customer behaviors, sustainability is it's not going away. It is
mm,
there. So being able to make sure your teams are aware, but also let your guests know what it is you're doing, I think will continue to have an impact as to whether or where our guests will end up staying in your hotels or
yeah,
another hotel based on like, are you really putting the effort in, or are you just saying you're doing a few things just for the sake of doing it? And
yeah.
when we
I
do
mean,
these, we look
that's
at
why
it.
that's just to interrupt you. I mean, that was something that with the uniforms, the staff felt, how can I explain? They felt incredibly proud. They were wearing something. You know, there was a, for instance, in the market, there was a shirt, there was an apron, there were trousers, and even the accessories, everything was made from recycled material. Some was plastic recycled bottles, and some was bamboo. And they, because they were wearing it, they were actually telling customers, look, you know, my uniform's actually made from recycled material. It was something tangible. It wasn't something, you know, because sometimes with sustainability, that you talk about carbon footprint or what, it's something a little bit hard to grasp for some people. But the fact that these staff were wearing a uniform that was made from recycled material, and it was a great PR story. A lot of guests resonated with it. We never got to the stage of using, you know, these fabrics for, you know, for instance, you know, the robes in the room or sheets or anything like that. But it was something that really went down very well. So I think that you're right. If you're doing things that the guests can actually see and resonate with, and if they're looking at two or three different hotels to choose from in Bangkok, and they see that Conrad has an aviary on the roof, and they're wearing sustainable uniforms, or they're doing this, that, and the other, there's probably, with the new generation, there's probably more chance that they might choose you. Do you think that's the case?
Yes, absolutely. Especially now with this day and age where everything is accessible online, people see your every move.
Yeah,
So we do a great job where we collaborate with a lot of local suppliers, farmers, artisans, or even social enterprises, which try to
right,
strengthen that cultural authenticity while supporting the local economies.
right,
And at the end of the day, it's all there to enhance the guest experience while trying to promote responsible travel. But look, there's a long way to go. But one of the key success stories here at Conrad Bangkok is we try to bring the philosophy to life through things that you can see, as you mentioned. Some of these topics of carbon footprints and what have you might be a little bit difficult for people to navigate and understand. But let's just say here in our hotel, one great initiative that always gets spoken about is our Conrad elephant souvenir. So this is
okay,
an elephant that's crafted from an exquisite silk fabric by a local artisans in Chiang Mai, which is in the North Province of Thailand. And every guest that stays with us, they receive this really nice gift, a unique keepsake that's placed in the room, and it creates this really nice, meaningful connection to the Thai craftsmanship, but it also supports this local community who are hand making these for us. So these are the kind of partnerships that I think celebrate heritage, but also demonstrate how sustainability can enrich a luxury experience. So lots of opportunities and still a lot of work to be done.
Yeah, I think that's a very interesting point. I mean, when you talk about luxury and and you talk about all the different amenities that one puts in a guest room, do you think there's a danger that in moving towards sustainable solutions, that the guest has a certain expectation in terms of what they're going to get when they get into a room or in a hotel, in a luxury environment? Do you think that these two things kind of weigh one another out? I mean, do you think that if you start removing too many of the unnecessary things, that impacts, or you think guests understand that that's a necessary way to go?
Yeah, I think it's not necessarily removing it, but what alternatives you can offer.
Okay.
And this,
Yeah.
for example, something that's very common now in the hospitality world, especially with big international companies. And it's that shift from those miniature amenities that you
Yeah.
have in the bathtubs
Mm.
and in the shower cubicles to box size amenities. I am a little bit I was a little bit pessimistic about how that would be perceived when it was introduced, but it's almost something that the guests even expected.
Expect. Yeah.
So the noise
Yeah.
around that was minimal, and actually it was even favorable because they can see what we're doing, and you are still offering a premium product, but
Mm.
has purpose. And
Good
you
point.
talked about what can you do with certain things and make it tangible. So let's just say our bulk amenities. We have this wonderful amenity called Beredo, which is a Conrad standard across the the global footprint. And each bottle is 450 ml, so of course it lasts a lot longer than your individual miniatures. But when it comes to how to repurpose and upcycle, we we are partnering with Scholars of Sustenance here and some of our local partners, such as Diversity, where we give these bottles to them and they grate and shave it, and it ends up being able to be used in flooring, which then gets
Great.
put back into the community, which I think it's a great story. Who would
Yeah,
have
that's
thought that
excellent. Yeah.
just shredding plastic could be the foundations of something?
Yeah, and I think that's a very good point because it's more about the sort of end of life side of it, that what happens to it after that, which is why those uniform thing was quite good because they take them back or even buy them back and use the thing. So your costs are reducing too. So from an owner's perspective, they say, wow, this is a more durability, it's cost effective. So I think you're absolutely right. And I just wondered, like looking ahead now, where you see the balance between sort of people, planet, and profit in terms of evolving. I mean, I'm talking maybe 5 years down the line now. I mean, if you look back and say, "Wow, that was successful," because all these things are sort of coming together at the same time. Do you see a balance between all these things?
As an optimist, I certainly do, because the things that we're not doing enough of, you can see in the environment now. You just look at the weather as a starter. It's just incredible how things have changed over the last 10 years. And I think it's down to us and how we protect our planet. So I would say, in line with, for example, what Hilton is looking at in the future, our 2030 plans, I do think it's going to be the balance between the people, the planet, and profit, which are going to be somewhat inseparable, because I think they're all intertwined. They are interdependent. Profitability, I think, is really going to be increasingly hinged on how well we care for the people and the planet. While sustainability, I think it's no longer a cost, it's really an investment into the
Mm.
long term resilience of brand trust. So I think creating those spaces, those environments, the experiences that prioritize well-being and that authenticity and environmental responsibility is going to be really prevalent. And
Mm.
we know here at Hilton, we expect the hotel, as I expect our team, to lead with purpose, which is
Yeah.
why embedding sustainability into multiple touch points from sourcing
Mm.
to the energy management to the community engagement is something that gets spoken about so much.
Right. So if we were to look at like sort of what's next for your property, and when you think about your own legacy as a hotelier, um, we never stay in a property. We kind of, I used to think I was a bit of a caretaker, for the next guy, and you try and leave the hotel in a better way than where you found it. I mean, with Icon, I was there and opened it, so I was there for 13 years. So it was a little bit different there. I was very attached to it. But for you, we do tend to get up and move on at some point. So, when you think about your legacy and what you want to be remembered for, what would it be?
Wow. If you talk about legacy, I very much have a similar mindset to yourself that you are somewhat a caretaker. You need to drive the business. You want to make sure there's always continuous improvement. And whenever if that someone new comes in to manage the property, it's in good hands and that person can take it forward. But what I would like to be remembered, I would aspire to be remembered as a leader that's championed purpose-driven hospitality, because I truly believe that luxury can coexist with responsibility, and that's something I really am very passionate about. Because hotels, they will evolve, and hotels will evolve from being just not just a destination, but almost like an ecosystem. We spoke a lot about trends on sustainability and personalization, but well-being is really something that is spoken about so much in this segment. And I think guests don't want to just check in for the stay. It's going to be what they'll enter is a curated experience where we spoke about AI. So let's say technology can anticipate the needs. Wellness is there, it's integrated into the various touch points. And then the sustainability piece, it's not an option, but it is becoming that standard. So I'll be
Yeah,
really interested to see over the next 5 years how that further further evolves, and that there's so much work in the background that's being done on this.
yeah. No, that's very interesting. I just wondered whether with your organization nowadays as a GM, do you get you are you fairly sort of autonomous in terms of collaborating with vendors, suppliers, experimenting with different ideas? I mean, I do hear from some of the guests I have on my podcast, from some of the bigger brands, that they're somewhat handcuffed when it comes to experimenting and being having flexibility to work with vendors and try out new ideas. Do you have some degree of flexibility within your organization
Yes,
to do that?
there is certainly a very good level of flexibility because at the end of the day, we all want to do good. We do have
Yeah.
our central procurements that do help us to make sure that we are meeting certain requirements. Of course, the sourcing, the supplier checks,
Mm.
our goals, let's just say for even eggs, how many percentage are cage free? What is our
Yeah.
uh, a ratio of sustainable seafood that you order? But naturally, and you can appreciate this being in Southeast Asia for so long, every market is so different that
Yes.
there's no one person that sits in the head office that can determine what's best as a one size fit all. So it's really a collaborative process where amongst Thailand hotels, we will get a lot of great ideas. We share them upwards, and then it becomes a regional a rollout. So there's certainly a lot of flexibility in that regard. And there's always so much to keep on top of with what's in the market, what can we do what can we do better.
No, that's true. I remember with Shang. I mean, you may remember in the sort of the latter stage of when I was working there. There were some corporate guidelines around suppliers, and that the suppliers couldn't use plastic and had to do this, that, and the other. I mean, as you say, when you're trying to roll it out across a brand, it's very difficult. I remember even the Golden Circle program was a bit of an Achilles heel because what you got in London wasn't the same as in Shenzhen or in Borneo, right? So, I mean, you can make promises to people, but whether you can actually deliver them is another thing. So that's a very interesting point. But I'm pleased to hear that there is that flexibility for creative leadership and using your initiative, and that they encourage GMs and that you encourage your team to uh, try new things, because I think it's very important that we should give it a go sometimes. You never know what the outcome's going to be, but if you're afraid to kind of try new ideas, then that's always very debilitating.
Yeah, there's a really a strong sense of autonomy because we're often referred to as the captain of our business. We lead the business, and it's really a purpose driven business that looks after our guests, our team members, but also the community. Just on the news last night, Hilton was ranked the number one great place to work, which
Okay,
is
great.
an incredible
Congratulations.
accolade. And that just really shows the emphasis on all those different stakeholders in the business. And you have to be purpose driven, you have to adopt innovation, you have to be able to, to deliver and be at the forefront and do good things. That's
Yeah,
really what the ethos is
yeah.
just do better for the planet and for our team.
Brilliant. Well, I'll talk to my friends at the Cresswell and see if there's a way that they can send you some chef's jackets to just test out. You can give them to your staff to wear to your chef, because I know you said he's really into it. Maybe if I can get you 10 jackets, and then you can get them to try them on and see what they think of them. I mean, I think it would be really good to get your feedback. But thanks a lot, Tim. I really appreciate your time. Just to sort of round it up now, I think that you've given us a really great insight and perspective into what Conrad and Hilton are doing now. I've always admired the brand, and I know quite a lot of the players from my Hong Kong days and Singapore time. And I wish you all the best. And if I'm in Bangkok, I'll be certainly keen to come and touch base with you and see what you have to offer there. But thanks ever so much. And, it'd be great to keep in touch. And I'll send you a bit more information about these sustainable textiles and fabrics and uniforms.
Yes, as I mentioned, we're always open to new ideas and initiatives, and we can certainly explore that. It sounds very interesting. So let's see where that goes. And please do look me up when you're next in Bangkok. I know it's one of those places that people often tend to swing by more often than not.
Yeah, I actually used to work at the Dusitani. I also know, I remember I was there for 6 years, and that hotel, I did a massive renovation. It's subsequently been torn down and rebuilt. So
It
it's
is the
amazing
talk
how
of the town,
things.
the return of the
Bangkok
legend.
is Yeah, Bangkok is. I mean, it's nice that they kept the roof, the hat on the top. It's still recognizable.
I was there just very recently, and it's an incredible journey on what they've done of trying to keep that local Thai tradition authenticity, but match it with that modernity. So I think you'll be very much
Yeah,
excited and pleased with what you see when you come over. And at that final stage where they've just opened up the mall that's attached to it, and they're going to be opening up the residences and the commercial spaces. So look, it's
brilliant.
Bangkok. There's always something happening. It's being built and coming to market. So that's part of
Yeah,
the
Bangkok
attraction of
is
the
is
area.
Yeah, from what I can gather from listening to you, and Bangkok is really thriving. So that's very encouraging. Well, thanks a lot, Tim, and I'll let you know when the recording is up, and I'll keep in touch with you. But thanks, I really appreciate your time. I know you're a busy guy, but thanks, and
No,
all the best to you, and all the best to your team. Thanks, Tim.
and thank you again for this wonderful opportunity. A first for me. I hope I didn't do too poorly.
No, you did a great job. It was really good. You're very natural. You're very good at this. We'll have to do it again.
Okay,
Thanks a lot.
absolutely. I look forward to that.
Okay,
Thank
thanks.
you.
No, you're a star. Well done.
All right. Well, you have a wonderful weekend ahead, and let's keep in touch.
Thanks a lot. I'm going to pause it now.